All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. This week we have our last set of freshman small group leaders, Elizabeth and Amy. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Good. Thanks for
Good.
having us.
Good. Well, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing with your time since you got sent home from campus with because of coronavirus.
Well, when we got back originally, obviously we still had class, so that was super not fun for a couple months there. And then ever since then, I've been nannying some, and then I'm also working at this company doing some administrative work.
Cool.
Yeah, I took a summer class in June, and then I'm doing an internship all online in public health. So
Awesome.
it's been fun.
And you've been working on the farm, I assume?
Yes, we actually just had our first calf on Saturday.
Awesome.
Aw.
That's fun. Cool. Well, my first question is I would love for you guys to share with me a little bit about the summer and like the month leading up to your freshman year. When you guys were coming in, what do you remember feeling like really excited about? What do you remember feeling nervous about? Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was definitely excited just to be on campus and be around the sports and just sort of have the whole feel of things. My biggest fear, I guess, was not making friends, and that was like probably one of the easiest things that came when I was on campus. Um, but yeah, so the worries of friends were definitely there for me. But most of it was excitement, just ready to sort of see what was out there, see what college was all about.
Cool.
I think for me, like a lot of my life, I really haven't enjoyed change that much. And then for college, I was like super excited about it, but still nervous about how much change it would be and just like adjusting to not being able to see like my friends from home that much and like what that would look like and not being able to see like my parents and just, but I was really excited about it because it was the next thing. But I was definitely nervous about just how new everything was and that I would have no idea what I was doing and like the collegiate workload and like no idea where I was going and like all of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's some nerves and fear that a lot of people can relate to. So I want to get into talking to you guys about how you got plugged in with InterVarsity. But before I do that, you guys were both very involved on campus your first year, very busy women. So tell me a little bit about the things outside of campus ministry that you were involved with and are involved with on campus.
So I am on the club UNC tennis team, which is super fun. It's a little bit more low key than a lot of other club sports, which I'm really grateful for. But that definitely kept me pretty busy, and I did a lot of campus ministry stuff. So I'd say that took up a lot of my time. But definitely like intramural sports. I was on a couple different IM teams, and then club tennis, and yeah, I also did. This is like I did the fellows program through the study center also, which is like not technically a campus ministry, but also like part of a religious affiliation. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, you were very heavy in the intramural scene. Did you win your T-shirt freshman year or not?
Oh my gosh, our soccer team would have won it. We were like so close. And I played Amy against an IM basketball, but I was on like two different IM teams, and then I sprained my ankle during the
Oh no.
tournament, and then I like have been recovering during quarantine.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
we would
I
have won in soccer though. Like we were undefeated so far.
gotcha. Yeah, well, I know that you'll be excited if and when intramurals are allowed to come back. Who knows what the fall
If
will be like?
that's
Amy, what
really
about you?
positive.
Yeah, what's some of the stuff that you're involved with?
Yeah, so I'm last year was a UNC JV basketball manager for the men's team. So very involved in the program. Love basketball. I also worked for Carolina Athletic Hospitality for football season, so worked all the football games. in the blue zone. So that was interesting.
Amy's got the hookup with Carolina sports.
That's right.
She knows the right people. It's
Amy's your connection.
for sure. Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about campus ministry. Tell me a little bit about the process for you, maybe specifically in the fall, how you decided where to get involved, and what that was like for you.
For me, it was all about Carolina Way Camp. When I was able to sort of get a feel for like all the campus ministries that were available. Tried out a bunch when we got back on campus, and just sort of started like meeting people and sort of figuring out like what people I really connected with. And sort of just like fell into InterVarsity, and like loved my small group, and really enjoyed the people and the connections I was making. So sort of stuck with it, and yeah.
Awesome.
I think for me, it felt like very much like rushing for campus ministries in the fall, which was super overwhelming in the beginning. Like, I think the first night that we got back, I like went to a campus ice cream social for a ministry, and like that just like the first 2 weeks were so overwhelming with all of that. But so in the fall, I like started in a varsity small group, and that was fun, Zane, because you got to lead it one time, which was really great.
My first time ever leading a freshman women's small group for 1 week.
And I had great community, and some of my friends, my close friends that I had already made at school, ended up being in my small group, which is really helpful for like staying consistent. But also I went to Crew large group a lot, and I was involved in like Young Life and College Life some, and stayed pretty involved with all of that through the first semester. I really loved my InterVarsity Bible study, and so I had a hard time leaving it, even to like skip a week to go somewhere else. So I definitely like that. That was consistent throughout fall semester, and then spring semester I went through Young Life Leader training, and really like had to pray and be thoughtful about like where I felt like I was being called, and then just felt like that was InterVarsity. But it was definitely like there's so many great options at UNC. But and also, Zane, you gave a great talk about community at Carolina Way Camp, because InterVarsity really wasn't on my radar like at all just going into college, because I just am more unfamiliar with it. But after you did that, I was like, wow, like this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, I still remember that. That was so good.
Good. Well, that's debatable if I know what I'm talking about, but I'm glad that was a good talk. So
you did that day. So yeah I guess it's debatable.
Hopefully I'll be able to give it again with whatever version of Carolina Way Camp we have this year. So for sure. I want to talk some about your small groups, but also I feel like on these podcasts we talk about small groups a ton, and I just want to at least highlight some of the other things that we do in InterVarsity. The fall semester, again, we'll put a little bit of a change into some of those regular things. But what were some of the things outside of small group that you guys did with InterVarsity that you particularly enjoyed? Just to put it on people's radar, the other types of things that we do.
Well, I think freshman girls started to do like a movie night like after large group pretty well into the semester, and that sometimes extended into like everyone as well. But that was a super fun thing to do after large group, and it was a really good way to get to know other people who weren't like in your small group that I like really enjoyed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think facilitating connection between the groups is something that we care about, and so that's great. Yeah. What about you, Amy?
I definitely enjoyed large group, and as well as I know for Super Bowl we went to like some of the older girls' house, and like that was fun, just getting to meet some of the other people in InterVarsity that like I wasn't always around, or but yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited about this year, especially we have a pretty big junior class, and so there's a lot of houses with a lot of InterVarsity students in them, and so should be some cool opportunities to get off campus and connect with some older students. So yeah, you guys both mentioned being involved in a small group and really enjoying that. Share with me some of the highlights, some of the things that that you really enjoyed the most about your small group experience from your freshman year.
I loved my small group. It's definitely something I've never really experienced before, even though I've grown up in church. Just never had really been a part of I guess, a group that was like inclusive. We weren't all best friends, but we were all friends, and it was a great time just sort of to dive in the word together. And it was like the best part of it maybe wasn't the Bible study part, but it was just sort of like sharing about how our week was, and just sort of getting to know each other. And we definitely had a breakthrough. I guess it was second semester when we came back, and for some reason everyone just like broke down and started crying, and it was sort of like our breakthrough moment. And from then on, small group was just like so vulnerable but so good at the same time. But yeah, it was just I never felt scared or like judged to share anything, and it's just definitely an open environment.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I think with my small group, like, I mean, all small groups have like such a great group of people in them, and like as like the semester like went on, we all like really got to know each other a lot better, and like started hanging out more like separately besides small group. And I would say I like really loved how comfortable it felt whenever we had small group, and how like everyone was really welcoming, and like we like did a good job like trying to bring new people to our small group throughout like the year. And I felt like whenever I brought someone who maybe like wasn't a Christian like anymore, or, like wasn't familiar with the faith, I thought like that people just welcomed them really well, and also like pursued them and reached out to them like outside a small group because they like really care about what happens. Yeah, I mean, I love my small group as well, and like I think that was a really great thing. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Two big things you guys said are vulnerability and outreach or mission, and those are definitely big priorities for us with our small groups. So you guys are both going into your sophomore year, and you're taking on a leadership role. So want to highlight the fact that there are a lot of leadership opportunities within the ministry for students. It's a very student-led ministry. So in that vein, why don't you guys share a little bit about apprentice training going through, I think we call it leadership. What do we call it? Leadership Institute, sorry. I've called it a couple different things in my years on staff, but Leadership Institute. Share with me a little bit about why you decided to go to that and what that process was like for you, just going through that training.
Yeah. I think I definitely have a tendency to like throw myself into things, and also like try and go deep in them as fast as I can and just see like how it goes. And so with Leadership Institute coming up, I had heard like really great things from other leaders, and I also was just curious about like what you were going to say. And I went to the first one and got a lot out of it. And I was just like, man, like I like regardless of whatever I decide with leadership, like I think that like what Zane is sharing with us, like I really need to hear, and like is really valuable to me, like no matter what I decide to do. So I think like that was a huge thing. And then also like a lot of my friends like we decided to go, and then we like made a thing to get dinner before and then go, and like it became like something that we like all like went to and like could talk about and like hold each other accountable for some of the stuff that you challenge us to do. So
Yeah, that's great.
For me, it was more of a sort of like on the whim. There was one Sunday night I didn't have basketball practice, so it was just like, okay, I'll go and see how it goes, and really enjoyed it. I had been through like types of leadership training before, especially like with all the sports I played, and just sort of thought it was gonna be like the same old like leadership 101 type stuff, and it was so different, and it was so good. It challenged me in ways I hadn't been challenged before, and it just made me start to think about things that I hadn't really pushed myself to before, so I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's great. Even with enjoying Leadership Institute for both of you, the process of deciding to become a small group leader there was some, different times where you thought you weren't going to do it. There was other things on the table that you were considering. Like we mentioned, you guys were both really involved. So share a little bit of insight into your thought process of when you decided like, yes, this is something that I really want to do. I want to be a part of like leading a small group in the fall.
For me, the big kicker was just thinking about time, because at this point, I don't know exactly what my role in basketball is going to be next year. And no one really knows what's going to happen with basketball anyway,
Right.
with COVID. So it was definitely sort of I have no clue what's going to happen. I could be extremely busy, or I could sort of have the schedule I had this year, which was still pretty busy. And so at some point I just sort of, through praying and just sort of like leaning on God about it, sort of came to the realization that, like, yes, I might be busy. Yes, it might be a little hectic, but building relationships is something I love to do and something that I feel called to do for this especially. So sort of decided to take the chance and form some new relationships and take a new adventure.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, I definitely felt called to lead somewhere. It was just figuring out where that was, which was really hard because like there's so many like great places that God calls each of us to serve, and it doesn't have to like it doesn't look the same for a lot of people. Um, and so definitely like I was like super close to becoming a young life leader, and also like thought about leading in some other places. But for me, I think, and we've talked about this too, but just like the idea of being called to be on campus and to lead on campus. And I love how InterVarsity is something that you can bring people into, and like it's so easy on like college campuses to be able to bring your friends into things that like are like a part of your life but also like can be a part of their life. And so for me, I like it was a really hard process, and I prayed a lot. And I think I got to a point where God was like, I think like God was like, you're gonna be like great like with whatever you decide. Like God wasn't really like you should do one thing or the other, but he was like you should lead. And so I think for me, it became clear that InterVarsity was the best place for me to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to echo, like, I think that that's such great advice to incoming freshmen, even though you didn't necessarily give it as advice, is the fall semester is going to be strange, right? The campus ministry kind of like go to everything experience that you guys had is going to be limited in a lot of ways. And there might be some fear over like, well, what if I choose the wrong thing? And the reality is that all the ministries on campus are offering great things, and they're doing great things, and you can serve and lead in a lot of different capacities. I think choosing to get plugged in early and being committed somewhere is going to be a bigger deal this year than it has been in previous years. But I like what Elizabeth said of the Lord is probably not like, hey, if you make the wrong choice here, I'm going to like walk away. You know, he's going to go with you wherever you choose. So I would just encourage incoming students, just be confident in a choice that you make. And yeah, there's not a bad way to get involved in Christian ministry and Christian community on campus. So would love to hear you guys. I don't know how well you knew each other before we paired you together as leaders. And I know you've gotten to talk some since. What are you excited about leading with each other, and kind of what are some of the things that you're most excited to do with your small group next year or this year?
So it was really great because Amy and I actually had Econ 101 together this semester, which just really feels like the Lord, like that we like got to see each other like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and like get to know each other a lot better than we like had ever known each other before. And so I think like Amy is just awesome. Like I could like she's just awesome, and like I'm just so like I think we're gonna lead really well together, and like we both have like different like personalities that I think are gonna balance each other out really well. And I know like Amy is like very committed to like everything that she does and like does things well, and so I'm like really excited to lead with her because I know like that's the way that she is, and she's like very committed. And I think something that like I'm really excited about for our small group is just like the ability to like pour into like incoming freshmen and also like make them feel welcomed, and that like we're here for them like with whatever they need, and also like bring them into like our community of like people in our Bible studies and like our friends, and like to actually like become friends with like the people in our Bible study and like not just like their leader, which I think is a really cool thing about getting to lead Bible studies in college. That's like super different from other Bible studies that I've been in the past.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Elizabeth is like, I was so stoked when I found out because I had told my mom like the week before, and I was like, if I get Elizabeth, I'm gonna be so happy. And it just sort of happened. And yeah, she definitely is a light and challenges me to be better. And sort of like stick with it. But I'm so excited to meet our girls and just like be friends with them and sort of like help them through this crazy time that none of us really know how, like, what it's going to work out to be, or like how to really handle it. Especially with it then also being their like first year in college. So it's going to be a lot of news for them and us. So just sort of getting to walk through this crazy time, and just sort of like use the like energy that Abby and Megan gave to showed me my first semester from first year, and sort of pay that back to these new girls.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I think you guys are both super fun to be around. You're well connected. You can help freshmen build connections with other people. But you also both have passions that I really admire. I think Elizabeth has a real passion for outreach and care for all the students on campus, non-Christians. And I love that. And Amy is just like committed to community and fun, and like is just a really great friend. And I'm excited to be able to watch you guys lead together. So a couple of questions I've been asking to everyone. What are the ways that you really feel like you grew in your relationship with the Lord last year? And what were some of the disciplines that you were able to adopt maybe for the first time, or just hone in, that helped in that growth process?
For me, I definitely grew in my relationship with God, just through sort of having that little bit of quiet time every day, and having to like truly trust in him, because in college you don't have control. Like, you have more control than you did at home probably, but you have very little control over grades and like things that will happen during your day that you didn't expect, and just sort of having to give that to him. And especially like even thinking about your major or your future, or just like all kinds of things, like instead of like worrying about it, just sort of giving that to him, and saying like, I know you're going to work this out, just like I just need to keep doing my part, and I know like you have this roadmap for me, and I just have to continue pedaling along, and you will guide me. So that was definitely something that I had to stick with. I stuck with, and helped me a lot, especially when I would see friends saying like, oh, I'm going to the library, when I was going to go and be with friends and hang out with friends instead. So just sort of like being able to trust in him, saying just because I'm not in the library like every second doesn't mean that I'm not as good as other students on campus. It's just a different way. But yeah. And then what was the other one?
Just the discipline. So you said with quiet time regularly. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think for me, I think this happens for most college students, but when you get to college, you're finally at a place, like if you were raised around like the church and like it's something that your family's involved with, like to some extent, like it's never really been your choice. And so I think for me, like I really came into college and I think I really chose for myself that like this is something that I really like wanted. And so I think just like choosing that, and also like choosing to like try and like go to church and be like, this is something that's important to me, or also like and be involved, also like have friends that are not Christians too, but also like be surrounded by a community that I know like values the same things as I do, and like will hold me accountable. It's like me like trying to pursue like my relationship with God, and I think that's really important, and I've never had community like that. He was also like trying to pursue God in the same way that like I was, and that his like, so I feel like I normally like go to camp or whatever, and then I'd come home and then I like burn out and like am not and really inconsistent with like my quiet times or stuff like that. But then I like was finally surrounded by people who were all like, yeah, like I like try to do this every day, and like I'm like, okay, like I need to try and do that too. And like so I feel like the accountability part of like my faith was really good. And like that led me to be more disciplined.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think it's significant to know that a lot of freshmen, you're coming in at different places. Some people have been having regular time with the Lord every day for years, and some don't really even know what that's supposed to look like, or how to do that on a regular basis. And all of that has a real place within a small group, especially because, like you said, a small group is a type of community that can really help hold you accountable. and help you grow in those things, and a place to ask honest questions and to be like, I don't even know, I've never heard of this, I don't know about this, like, how do I do it? And to have that with a small group is really significant. Okay, my last question for you guys is, knowing what you know now, if you were to go back and be starting your freshman year again, what's one piece of advice that you would give to yourself?
Ooh, hard question. I think I would say like kind of what you said that I was saying earlier, and kind of like that God is kind of like gonna call you to something, but also like if he doesn't tell you exactly what that is, like that's okay. Because I think for me, I was just like expected that from him, and then I was like super frustrated that he didn't give that to me, and I was like, God, like literally, like what's up? Like if you tell me, then I like will do it. Like even if that's thinking about like what your passion is for like what you want to study, like that is like applicable through like a lot of things besides like where you want to lead or what campus ministry you want to be involved with. But I think I was like very paralyzed like from fear about making a mistake about choosing something over something else and regretting it. And so I wish that I hadn't done that and just like trusted that I was doing the right thing, and that like that was like whatever I was doing, like God has also like called me to do, and I can also change my mind. So
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing that we've done with this idea of calling, particularly with young people who are trying to follow Jesus, as we made calling all about individual choices, mostly career choices. And so when I have to decide what to study or what to do next or where to get involved, I like start praying. I'm like, God, tell me where to go. And I think that calling, more often than not, God calls you to be the type of person who chooses to worship him and follow him in everything. And when you do that, it's not like there's always forks in the road, and if you choose the wrong path, then God's walking down the other one and you're going to be gone. God walks with you. He's calling you to be someone who loves and honors him. And so you don't have to make every decision the biggest decision of your life, which college has a way of doing, right? My next decision is the biggest decision I'm going to make in my whole life. And it's like, not really, because you can decide to do something different next week if you want, and that's okay. God's still going to be with you and for you. So I really love that. Yeah. Amy, what about you?
I guess for me, the big thing would be to like, it's okay if like the plan that you have set in your mind coming into college of what you want to do, like what campus ministry or like what career you want to follow or what major you want to be in. It's okay if that by your second semester is not what you want to do, or if your plans don't work out like as perfect as you thought they would. I changed my major last semester because it's different than what I had thought I wanted to do when I came into college. So it changes really quickly, and it's okay. Like, don't be scared to not know what's next or not know what you want to do. It's okay if you're undecided. Be open to changes and just be open to what Carolina has to offer. There's so many different experiences and opportunities out there. Like, don't be scared to say yes and take a chance. And even if you may not be gung-ho about it or know a lot about it or like understand, it's a great place to see like why others think what they think or do what they do, and just sort of have a better understanding. And it's a great place to learn.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just good advice for anyone in the world right now. As you're presented with new information and new things are brought to light, it's okay to change. It's okay to make a different choice, to decide something new. And I think that's particularly true for college students, right? There's going to be things that happen that you don't anticipate. You're going to find out things that you thought you were going to love that you don't love as much. And that's okay, because the Lord is with you. So yeah, well, I'm super excited. If you guys are coming to Carolina, these would be two awesome women to check out their small group and to get plugged in. We're excited to meet you all. Elizabeth and Amy, thanks so much for joining me this week. Yeah, and we will see you guys next time.